Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Combaluzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. Today's webinar focuses on Libero Copper and Gold, which is a mineral exploration company that holds a collection of porphyry copper deposits throughout the Americas in prolific but stable jurisdictions. The portfolio includes the Big Bulk, Big Red, MOCOA, and ESPERANZA projects. Today, I have with me on the webinar Ian Harris, who's the president and CEO at Libero. The format of the webinar will be comprised of two parts. In the first part, Ian will provide an update on Libero Copper, including discussing the latest results out this morning from Big Red, as well as providing an overview of the company's projects and what investors have to look forward to in the near term, particularly as exploration ramps up at MOCOA. In the second part of the webinar, we'll take your questions live. So please send them in using the chat function and we'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A session. To start, we'll handle the disclosures and then get into the presentation. So for Libero Copper, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Libero Copper specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Ian to update you on the company and what you have to look forward to going forward.
Thanks a ton, Taylor, and thanks for saving me the time of doing the forward-looking statement. I've really been enjoying these quarterly updates because every time it seems like there's a significant step moving forward. As we were talking, in the beginning, it was like they're putting together the team. Here's our strategies. Then there was boots on the ground in Big Red. Next was Big Bulk, and then the results started to coming in. And then today we're sitting right on the cusp of some very exciting times in Colombia. So I'm really excited about sharing the news of the company right now. Obviously, again, lots of forward-looking statements in the presentation. We do have the 243 101s, one for MOCOA and one for Big Red that I suggest people check out on CDAR. Lots of people, this might be a little bit of a broken record, but again, I'm not going to talk about the copper space. I think that most people understand what's happening in copper, but I am a mining engineer. We really like to be focusing our attention on projects that have the ability to become future mines. That's where we want to be spending our exploration dollars. So even very early in a project, we're going through that evaluation. What is the chance of this project to have of becoming a future mine? Since 90% of the world's copper comes from open pit porphyry copper mines, that means we're looking for those same characteristics: near to surface, disseminated, good strip ratios, and size and scale. In total, we do have the 4 projects. Big Bulk just came back with some very interesting results. I think it's really eking a little bit forward and showing that there's a little bit of there really is a potential at the project. Big Red has been checked a lot of boxes this year. Still a lot of work to do. ESPERANZA, we're itching and getting very close, I believe, on starting exploration program there. And then the big one now, which already has a mineral resource, is MOCOA. But the goal here is to be pushing these projects forward, that as that gap between supply and demand starts opening up, that we are prepared for that and we're doing our homework. We're not just interested in only getting fantastic drill results, but also proving the potential of these projects to be future mines and having that mentality at all times. So again, next is jurisdiction. We really like the jurisdictions we're in. We like being in the Americas, and we like the stability and the history of all the areas, and especially very excited about the big transformation that's happening in Colombia. And next, I won't beat a dead horse, but I am very proud to be working with such an incredible team here at Libero. And actually, we do have today joining us. Look forward to meeting him. Mr. Sununu is joining our board also to actually fill out with tons of experience in terms of financing, banking, and strategic planning, which I think we're going to need as we grow in the near future, right? We do believe that there's a really explosive growth potential of the company, and he'll help manage us through that. and we continue to have an incredible team on the ground also in all jurisdictions. So from a starting point, what do we look like? What is the panorama in terms of our share structure today? We're sitting around a market cap of $30 million after the announcement of the closing of our financing this morning. And that takes Anglo-Asian to 19.8%. I really think that this is a huge vote of confidence. They've put a lot of money into the company, not just because they think it's an incredible investment and opportunity, but to really be a strategic partner to work with us. It's wonderful to work with a operator and mine builder. They have staff today that are working on their projects that add the metallurgical, mine planning, environmental components that we'll be able to tap into to help guide us through as our projects develop, and really look forward to working with them again. We're sitting at 65 million shares, still very tight structure, 81 million on a fully diluted basis. And I think what's most important is today we're about 50 cents. Almost 89% of all our shares have been raised at the exact same price or through a warrant that came in. Our options are all priced at around on 50 cents also, and we have 23 million warrants out, all at 75 cents. So basically, everybody is sitting on the same page. Everybody has the same similar interests on driving this forward. And we've had 250,000 shares trading a day. So volume has actually picked up a little bit. Hopefully that's a good indication. So I think that we're sitting very pretty to prepare for our next steps. So the first thing is the results that we had drilling campaigns at Big Red and at Big Bulk this year in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. At Big Red, we did a lot of work. The Terry discovery was a late year discovery at the end of 2020. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done on the ground. We did significant amount of soil sampling, IP. We did an additional magnetic survey as we saw things were trending to the east and to the west. Put 4,500 meters of drilling into the project. And just recently, we released today, finally have all of the whole information back. And I think the biggest takeaway from Big Red for me personally, again, we're looking for projects that have the potential to become future open pit porphyry copper mines, right? Is the overall size and scale of mineralization at the project. We drilled 4,500 meters on this project, and over almost 4,000 meters. So about 90% of all drilling came back with mineralization, averaging 0.13 copper equivalent. So, and within those intervals, there were some very exciting intervals. So we're basically drilled into what's a dike swarm. And we're still going to use all that information that we've gained this year to start hunting for that porphyry core, right? It's definitely a big system. We're definitely checking lots of boxes. The amount of mineralization that is consistent and disseminated through the project is very, very good news for us in terms of, that's what you want to see. It keeps a reasonable strip ratio, et cetera. But then also the overall size and scale. If you just look over the Terry target itself, that's about 1 kilometer by about 800 meters wide, where the entire area is mineralized. We also, this hole is actually moved. It's supposed to be over here, but even at the scorcher target, not the grades we were hoping for, but still consistent mineralization through the top of the hole, through the end of the hole. Every single one of the holes ended in mineralization. And we found some interesting packages within each one of these holes that will hopefully create the vectors to help us with our hunt as we continue to look for the higher grade center of this porphyry. And again, this was actually the first hole of the year. You can even see multiple intervals within this entirely mineralized section, right? Again, this is a 500-meter hole with some very interesting sections where we're seeing higher grade hits of mineralization, and those will be the vectors that we'll be using to help us develop our drill plans for 2022. We were hoping to go bigger with about 10,000 meters this year, but we've decided to keep it at 5,000 because there's still so much we're learning, and it will give us the ability to adjust our drill programs based on results this year, sorry. Next is big bulk. So with big bulk, we had, I always talked about a binary decision at big bulk. We thought it deserved putting 2,000 meters into it. It was basically a new thesis saying that the historical drilling was skipping through a higher grade mineralization, which we're calling phase 2. There's multiple phases of mineralization, but we found this one phase 2, which was a quartz chalcopyrite veined in a hornblende diorite. Which we said, this is what's really carrying the grade, and it's not vertical, it's been slightly tilted on its side. So we put in holes trying to go directly into the center of this phase 2. Every single one of the holes ended up hitting mineralization and some very interesting intersects at 37 meters at 0.42 equivalent, 97 meters at 0.34. What we found out was that the fault, there was a lot more faults than we anticipated, but now that we have our own drill core, that will help us assist us in creating the vectors to see if we can find larger intersections. We have a lot of work to do in doing interpretation and getting all this drill information and incorporate it into our models for our future drilling programs. Next is Esperanza. Last time we talked that we were still shooting to get drilling started at Esperanza in the in the first quarter of this year, the end of it. We still believe that this is a possibility. After elections were held, we've had multiple meetings now with the Minister of Mines. He has set up some additional meetings. We're finding that we're creating that alignment with the government plans in the area. I think that we can, they are excited with working with us. They know of our reputation and our importance of license to operate. And we do believe that at any moment we'll have this project reactivated, and we still have the 5,000 meters planned at the project. So I really wanted to spend the majority of the time talking about MOCOA because there's so many interesting things happening. And as a little reminder, this is a project that was last drilled in 2012. It was acquired in 2018, but many things have changed since then in terms of a team that's capable of driving the project forward, in terms of what's happening with the political will that has been developed in the support of copper as a transition and for the energy transition. But this is a significant project that I wish more people knew about. I really do, because it's 636 million tons. It contains 4.6 billion pounds of copper, and it contains 500 million pounds of moly already. It's already a significant deposit that has significant legs to continue to grow. It's a project that already has historical drilling, even though it was drilled very systematically. Still has drill results at 0.75 over 600 meters. We know what companies that have put out drilling results like that are valued today. But if you look at it, and I'd like everybody to imagine a scenario, right? Today we have a market cap of 30 million, have over $7-8 million in the bank. So our market, just for easy math, we're about a $25 million enterprise value. And ignore that we have projects with good results in Canada. Ignore that we have the Esperanza project in Argentina. Ignore that this has been done by many of the management within our company of taking large-scale projects all the way through to development and sale. And just look at just the copper. The moly component is 500 million pounds of moly. World production of moly is 600 million pounds. But just ignore that for a second, right? And just consider the copper component of the project. And if you look on it, and this wasn't done by me, this was by another company, that our valuation in terms of enterprise value per ton of copper in the ground per ton is about 4.8. That puts us a little bit lower than Northern Dynasty, which is the Pebble project, right? To put that in perspective. So in my mind, this entire project, even if it was just valued just on MOCOA, it's considered an inactive project, right? It's considered something that doesn't have the chances to move forward. So that's been my mentality, is be able to prove to market that we are capable and do the work so that it's just not rush to get something done, but actually develop a project that can be sustainably developed over a long period of time that's required and advance a project of this size and scale, right? Because it's a project, obviously, that's very, very close to my heart. It's in the exact same Jurassic porphyry belt as Mirador project, where I was senior vice president of Corriente, where we took that project all the way through sale, then stayed on for a year afterwards and started construction on this project. It went on to be the first large-scale mining operation in the history of Ecuador, right? And learned so much in that process. Ernie Mass did a very similar thing at Cobre Panama with Inmet. So it feels like being home. It's something that's sort of like, I talked to Thiana Alvarez, who's basically, in charge of all the areas, social, political, and national alliances, and talk about, we've always wanted the chance to start something from the very beginning and doing it the way that we think is the correct way of doing it, getting that license to operate, and creating that support and that buy-in to a project from the very beginning, and that will sustain a project moving forward. Stepping just a little sidestep, also about the quality of the project. This is the overall location. It's in the southern part of the country near the border of Ecuador. It's located only 10 kilometers from the population of MOCOA, which has 50,000 people. Almost all of the project, there's no housing in the area, and almost all is on a government land. But we see it's kind of the benefits of both, right? We're near to 50,000 people that are obviously available to help support the project and move it forward in terms of purchasing and workers. It has two 220 kV power lines that go directly to the city that's very close by, and a significant infrastructure in terms of road. This road is actually being upgraded right now to a highway style road. So it has all the infrastructure right around us. This project has everything going for it to become a future mine in terms of the infrastructure, political, social, all the other components, and also for the existing resource. So we've really spent this whole year working on this basic triangle, right? Developing strength locally, alliances nationally, and continuing to drive political will, right? And that came through building a very solid house internally and really being committed to our very simple and core values, something that's very simple to understand. It's all our values are respect, our values are responsibility, and it's about being a good neighbor. So if your decision says, is that what a good neighbor would do? Then any and single one of our employee knows that they're making the right decision. And I always thought that this was a key component in terms of having the commitment to make sure that we're walking on a solid line. And the unbelievable thing, and especially here at Libero, was the empowerment that it drives, right? I wish I had time to tell some of the individual stories of individual employees taking that to heart and doing things and growing things organically within the organization, all the way to putting together the first ever safety boots ever constructed in Putumayo. Now, it was only 6 pairs, but I know that when we have 200 pairs, we're going to have 200, somebody who is capable of developing those boots for us locally, right? And we're constantly working on communicating before our activities, not during our activities, talking and trying to develop openness, communication, and also receiving that knowledge back to us to adjust our work plans. And so that's what we've really done this year. We've talked to over 2,790 people, and this was in December, with indigenous communities, local and national institutions, local community action boards, workshops with children, from them developing their very own electric motor to one that's going on right now, which is using Legos to develop a operating exploration drill, right? In an area, these STEM classes, where an area where they don't even have a computer in a classroom, has gone a huge way as people seeing the opportunities that can come through STEM and investigation. And over 316 meetings on one-to-one. And all this work, right, has really been what's created that license to operate, and why we took the decision in October to start geophysics. So let's take a step back again and look and think about where we're sitting today and say, if MOCOA was an active project and that drill hole from 2012, considering only copper, even the moly component is about 4 times higher than a normal porphyry, right? If just that drill hole was drilled today, wasn't directional drilling, or sorry, trying to hit a specific intersection. It was basically a vertical hole, 2 side holes, walking along a ridge line, vertical hole, 2 side holes, very systematic, and still hit 779 meters of 0.44 pure copper. If that drill hole happened last year, that was the 15th best drill hole in the entire world of any company of any hits, right? And then the other part of this is if you look and you say, okay, well, what were the 5 best holes? So this is on a copper percentage meter. So this is equivalent to a 1,200 meter hole at 1% copper. This is like 750 meters at 1% copper, but you can see the top 5 holes were about 700 meters at or better at about equivalent of 1%. So a 1,000 meter hole at 0.75 or a 700 meter hole at 1% copper, right? That tells you what the 5 best projects in the world look like. And here's the amazing thing that I try to explain why I get so excited about MOCOA, right? Is because from a risk profile, in order to put out those kind of results are easier because it already has a resource. We have no value for it in terms of our market valuation, right? But we don't have to go through and make a massive discovery at Esperanza, which we believe we have the potential to do, or continue to hit that high-grade core at Big Red. We know that big work that we have to do at MOCOA is upgrade the inferred resource, continue to expand it because it's open in all directions, and continue to look at new hits. So I know with a high level of confidence, at least what parts of those holes should look like, right? So this is the first hole that we will be drilling. This is our first planned drill pad that we have where we're currently mobilizing to, right? The drill should be on site by the end of the month. We're already got materials and supplies going up to the camp and drill steel, water lines, everything else. But this is our first hole. And its goal is to do the following. Historically, MOCOA is known to have an overall high-grade core that is plunging to the northeast. So here's a section that's looking west to east. We are looking through it directly to north. So this high-grade core plunges to the north and it plunges to the east. So this is a little slice through it, right? And how do I get rid of it? There we go. But one of the last holes hit a new high-grade core. So you think of this vertical hole with a side hole off of it. It hit a new section, but everything in between is pretty much unknown, right? We're calling that our blank zone. So our very first hole is designed to say, what happens between this high-grade core and this newly discovered high-grade? Is this a new high-grade core? Is this a one-off? And what is happening between, and what is happening to depth? Okay, keep in mind, this is 1,000-meter drill hole, right? That I already know that the big portions, to get an idea, that these rings are the lowest color is 0.7% copper equivalent. The high-grade purple is over 1.3% equivalent copper. You can see on the all these dark greens are over 1% copper, or actually 1.3% copper or higher, and you're seeing some really high over 0.2% moly in the same hole through these high-grade cores, right? So we have a high degree of confidence that this should be a pretty spectacular hole on a world setting. Our second hole that we have planned, okay, now this is looking south to north, so we're looking directly west, okay? And this same high-grade core is basically open to the east. So we're designing, this is actually off the same drill pad, just turning back the other direction. We're taking a step out in front of that high-grade core where it's still open and testing if it continues to move towards the east. But again, we know that this is some pretty significant grade that we'll be going through. And if it continues to extend like we believe it will, this should also be another significant hole. And the next 2 holes that we have planned, we're still continuing to plan additional holes. I believe once drilling starts at MOCOA, it will not end until it's at a feasibility or plus level. The next 2 are saying, okay, we believe that we'll have some significant results here, and it'll give us a chance to go out and test. I've always been saying our goal is to spend 50% between infill, expansion, and then the other 50% in true expansion and testing new targets. So directly to the east is an additional soil anomaly that really hasn't been tested. There's one hole in it that came up with mineralization, but not significant grades, but we believe that it's really outside of the ring of the center, and we'd like to test 2 significant holes into this. Now, keep in mind, this is the pit outline of the 600 plus million tons of resource that we have at this project. So, and another significant hit here would be very significant for the project, with the ability to potentially double. And that's only the beginning. These are the only real soil samples ever done on this project. We still have tons of hectares that we want to systematically come through and use that soil sampling to detect new targets. And to put it into context, what can that mean? What can this all mean to the company, right? Very similar story between Libero and JURASSIC. We're both started with an existing resource. Their entire resource, which ended up being 0.77, our high-grade core is almost exactly the same tons and the same grade as their overall resource. So ours is 636 million tons, but our high-grade core is 148 million tons of 0.75. What did they do last year? Or sorry, starting in 2020, they started their engagement programs, did their geophysics, started their soil sampling, prepared for drilling, and then right in the middle of 2020, or actually in August, I believe, they hit 567 meters in one of their holes at 1% equivalent copper. They went on over the next now 18 plus months, continue to put out significant results on the project, and today they're worth about $1.5 billion. We think that we could follow a very similar path, and that is why we're so excited about MOCOA, because especially considering this is not something that's extremely high risk. We don't need some out of this world Filo de Sol discovery, which we hope that we'll have at Esperanza. It's something that we know we already have a resource. We're just taking simple step outs, testing new targets, but we know the size and scale of type of project that this area and this zip code can produce. So again, in summary, we already have a 636 million ton resource at a 0.45 equivalent copper grade. That's 4.6 billion pounds of copper, 500 million pounds of moly. I was just looking at a company today that has 700 million tons of moly, and they're worth $43 million. So $43 million. So just from our moly alone, our potential growth could be over twice just on the existing resource. We already have drill holes that are 0.75 equivalent copper over 634 meters, and again drilled very systematically on a enterprise value per pound of copper today. That's a half a cent per pound of copper. Really treated like a inactive project that really doesn't have the potential to move forward. And I think that is all going to change. We're proving to everybody that this project is moving forward. We did that through acquiring an extremely solid license to operate based on our values and our operating system. We negotiated land access agreements in less than a month. We started our geophysics, and so now what's happening? Drills are mobile. A drill is mobilizing. We'll be starting drilling here right at the end of the month. We also know that here in Colombia that we can get a turnaround in less than 2 weeks, maximum 3 weeks on our turnaround on our drill hole results, which we're obviously very excited about too, after having to wait so long at Big Bulk and Big Red. So with a high level of confidence, we believe not in 6 months, but in March, we will start seeing the first drilling results from this project. And in parallel, be working on our overall soil sampling programs. We should have the inversions complete on our geophysics that we've been doing, and we'll be continuing to generate some more exciting targets at this project. So in summary, so much going on. We finally started drilling at Big Red. Drilling is now starting at MOCOA. Esperanza, we feel we're right at the cusp on getting that drilling permit reactivated. Every single one of these projects has the potential to be a complete company builder, and that we have lots and lots of room to grow. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Ian. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type in your questions at any point. So we have a couple that have come in. So easy one to start off with. Can you please remind us of the location of Big Red? Maybe just talk about the area a little bit and infrastructure that's around. And
I wonder if I can turn the presentation back on and just go to the slide. It's easier to talk about the location of both those projects. So here's Big Red, right? Here's, oh, sorry, I guess I need the pen. So here's Stewart. So Big Red is right off of the end of Telegraph Creek. It is there is a gravel road that goes pretty much all the way to our camp, so it's not like Galore or other projects that have some significant infrastructure problems. So it's right off of Telegraph. You get there by going up through Dees Lake and then through Telegraph, where Big Bulk is just directly near to, closer to Seward to the south.
Okay, perfect. Next question. Turning to MOCOA, could you please explain what the license to operate entails?
Okay, so obviously it is something that is, it's not a piece of paper, right? It's about having an overall support for the project. So we obviously have what we have is our own internal indicators of when we think that things can be achieved. But the biggest one for us is to talk about our plans and to see if there's significant objections to our plans. When we put out whether we want to hire people, we just hired 50 people, right? See how much demand we have for those 50 people. And through those individual conversations to see if there's an overall level of support for the project, right? Let's be frank, in no project will you have everybody is so completely supportive. But I do believe that through demonstrating our operating philosophy, our style, our values, the clear commitment to those values, and that truly that we are focused on creating and maximizing the maximum amount of benefit locally, basically hiring, doing the training necessary, getting the people the opportunities, understanding that creates a delay, understanding this project needs 8 drills, but we're starting with 1. Why? So we can train up our own local drill crew. So as we slowly add on drills, that we make sure that is coming from talent that is locally available, are all these components that we believe that we have a true social license to operate, right? So it's obviously never going to be a piece of paper, and it's always going to be based on those open communications that we already have. We just held last Saturday, for example, what we called our in Spanish, our good neighbor monthly chat, where we talked about our activities to begin exploration drilling. The big one is in the town of Montclair. We had 97% of the people showed up, where a year ago people said you would never be able to step foot in Montclair. And today we have 97% of the population being very supportive, open, sharing, and we now have 50 individuals just on this upcoming drill programs.
Great. Okay. Kind of along those lines, is there any document available that kind of outlines your ESG plans there, like an annual ESG type report, or not yet?
We just joined, and I'm going to blow the name, right? There is a UN guidelines that Colombia participates in those ESG reporting systems. So we have a big chunk of our work this year is ensuring that we're tying into those same ESG reporting. I want to let everybody know that personally, I think that ESG is about reporting, but it's really about the values and the operating philosophy on the ground that really makes the significant difference. I really believe on building things from the ground up, right? If it would have came to me when we needed 200 boots, we would have ordered them from Medellin because there wouldn't have been a capacity, but because one employee was highly empowered, went and found somebody who was willing to try and make 6 boots. They came out great. And now when we need 20, 30, 200, they're being put together. So I really believe it's what's the actions that are happening in the ground and the values that you have as a company that make a massive difference, a real difference on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. And maybe it's just a clarification for this one person, but just wondering if you have kind of all the permits, environmental and otherwise, for the drilling at MOCOA.
Yeah, this is something that I've stated in the past to clarify, right? We have a license to drill with the issuance of our mining title when we submit our report on basically our compliance with the already standardized requirements that go along with drilling requirements, right? There are always new additional environmental permits that could be required for the project based on, for example, we need a new water well. We need to cut down a significant amount of trees. We need to discharge into a stream, right? However, we've designed our drilling program where none of those permits are required, right? We will be able to purchase our water or collect rainwater. We'll have zero discharge on our drilling, and we haven't had the need to cut down any trees because we're using man-portable drills that are modular, that will be able to move from location to location that have a very small footprint. This is the experience that I had with in Ecuador. It's one of the reasons we went with Kluane, because they have a great experience drilling with these modular drills to significant depths. They actually were drilling over 3,000 meters at Quebradona in Colombia. So we have found, you know, by minimizing our footprint, that we have what's needed.
Perfect. Thanks for that clarification. So you mentioned in the presentation, you know, you just closed that $8.3 million financing. You know, how long does that give you a runway for, and you know, is that covering all the project work through this year?
So the way that I have it, you know, compartmentalized inside my head is I wanted, my goal was to make sure that we raised a significant amount of money, that if MOCOA was the only project that ran this year, that we would be able to run it for an entire year on the cash that we have and maintain, you know, standard corporate burn, right? So that is a very healthy amount. I will obviously, if Esperanza started, I'm not going to not drill Esperanza. It does not cover, though, any additional drilling in British Columbia this year. So it basically is enough to cover MOCOA for a full year, corporate overhead, and also probably restart of Esperanza. But obviously, a lot will be associated with which we truly believe that this MOCOA project will have a significant change in our valuation and create additional opportunities. We already have an extremely solid partner that is highly committed. It's not just an investment to them. They want to be highly involved and highly participant. They believe in the projects. They believe in the management. So we're very excited about having Anglo-Asian as a partner in this. So we really have, you know, the stars really are aligning for the company. Great.
And at MOCOA as well, in one of the slides, you have the new title submissions for the area there. Is that something you'll look to continue if there's other land that looks interesting to you in the area?
So, you know, it's one of the advantages of being here. So first, I'm sitting in Medellin. I've already committed. I'll be here for at least a year. I'm bringing my family here. I know that I can make more impact here than I can in Vancouver or Toronto. I'm committed to the project and understanding some of these intricacies, right? There are some very detailed calculations for economic capacity that are new in the country, right? So our overall goal is to work into these titles little by little. We already have developed a very strong relationship and reputation within the country, right? We now have other companies that are much larger than us that want to talk to us about how we're doing things because they've been so impressed with the work that's been done on the ground. We'll be picking up those titles little by little, but I think through also valuation and making sure that we can demonstrate the economic capacity. So our valuation is important. We're still seeing that this entire Jurassic porphyry belt in many ways is completely open. And we'd like to be ahead of the pack, right? You know, that's been my overall goal. Everybody feels that there's this building bubble that's coming along with mining and copper and et cetera. I definitely want to be on the front of that pack. I don't want to be slugging it out when it's, you know, all boats are floating, right? I want to be really ahead of that pack and really be able to drive these projects forward. And that will also mean taking advantage of probably picking up some additional ground as it becomes available, where other groups can not demonstrate that they have the economic capacity.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that, you know, I think being in Colombia is very exciting as well. You know, we're seeing the headwinds in the traditional copper producing countries such as Chile and Peru. So, you know, I think that's something else as well, particularly as Colombia has made it of strategic importance to advance copper projects. So that's great to see. You know, I think that kind of wraps up all the questions that we've had come in. Ian, if you have any kind of last thoughts for investors, or big catalysts to watch for, or any last reasons for investors to buy the stock, I'll leave the floor open to you right now.
So I have a conversation a lot with many people, right, about the quality of this company, where it's going. It's a fairly straightforward plan on creating significant value. The question is, why isn't it there already? I think we're obviously suffering a little bit from overall market, but this is really a new story. This is not a project. It was, underneath B2's belt until 2012 through 2018. It wasn't a high focus of the company. There's new blood. Over 50% of the management and officers, over 50% are brand new. That this project is really now moving forward. The changes in Colombia, I just think it's a matter of time before the company and the projects that we have become common names within the industry, and we really look forward to that happening in the near future.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ian, for hosting the webinar with us today and presenting Libero Copper, and thank you for everybody tuning in this afternoon.